All right, one last example for lesson 7.4. This example is about finding a base. So far we have found the part, we have found the percent, now let's find the base. All right, we have an example about movies in our book. Your friend paid $9 for a movie ticket. This amount, this $9, they mean, this amount was 72% of the total amount your friend spent at the theater. The question is, how much money did your friend spend? All right, our solution, there's our friend, the percent equation again. A equals P percent times B. Substituting things in. Now, percent, they gave us 72%, so that's always easy to put into our equation. The $9, notice they're putting in for A this time. Let's think about how would you know that? I mean, obviously, because this is example 4 and we're trying to find the base, we're going to find B. But what happens when all the problems get mixed together and you don't know that? Let's think about what they said in the problem that would help us to see that. First of all, they said this amount, the $9, was or is 72%. So look at our equation. 9 is 72% of the base. Think about what that's why that knowing that equals means is and times means of. That's a huge help, because then it says of the total amount. Well, they're not giving us that total amount, so we're saying of or times B, the unknown. So we've got things substituted in. Let's take a look now at the equation. 9 equals 72 hundredths. They've changed the percent into its decimal form. 72 hundredths times B. All right, now we're solving the equation. We're trying to find B. Since B is being multiplied by 72 hundredths, they're not showing us this, but we would do this. Divide each side, by 72 hundredths. Divide each side by 72 hundredths. That division could have been done on a calculator. There are ways of doing that on paper. We will explore ways of doing it on paper as well as on the calculator. But when you get that division done, you end up with 12 and a half being B, or the base. Now, what does that mean in this case? B is the base, or the whole. Go back to the question, how much money did your friend spend? How much whole, what's the whole amount he or she spent? Answer, your friend spent $12.50. So they took 12.5, added a 0 to make it look like money, and a dollar sign, $12.50 at the theater. So there's an example of finding a base. So in our note-taking guide, we have a similar problem, different situation about football. Your friend paid $48 for a ticket to a professional football game. This amount, now what are they talking about? This amount, this $48, was or is 64% of the total amount your friend spent at the game. How much money did your friend spend? So there's our percent equation, same old equation. We know the percent, 64%. We have to think, what number is 64% of the whole? Well, they told us that this amount, this $48, is 64% of the whole. And the question was, how much? It was 64% of the total amount. We don't know the total amount, so that's the base, that's the unknown. We're going to write the percent, 64 hundredths, as a decimal. And then we're going to solve. We want to isolate B. That's what we do in algebra. We isolate the variable. So we're going to have to isolate B. B is being multiplied by 64 hundredths. That means we're going to divide each side by 64 hundredths. That division can be done on a calculator. For those who are interested in seeing how it's done without a calculator, here's one way to do it. 48 divided by 64 hundredths. I don't like that decimal point. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change this fraction. I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to multiply both numbers by 100. I know that'll give me an equivalent fraction. That gives me 4,800 divided by 64. These are equivalent fractions, which makes them equivalent decimals as well, and divisions. So dividing this on a calculator will give you the same quotient or answer as dividing this on a calculator. If you don't believe me, try it. What I like is this is easier to look at and easier to work with. Now, I'm going to think about that 48 over 64. Thinking about my math facts, I know that both of these are divisible by 8. Because 8 times 6 is 48. So 4,800 divided by 8 is 600. And I know 8 times 8 is 64. So 64 divided by 8 is 8. That's a little bit easier to work with. And again, it's equivalent to this and this because I'm just using my equivalent fractions. Now looking at this, I know, for example, that those are both divisible by 2. I'm going to divide them by 2, see what happens. Now I've got 300 divided by 4. Hey, that's not so bad. But you know what? That's still divisible by 2. Now I can do 150 divided by 2. That's not so hard either, is it? And you know what? Those are both divisible by 2 as well. I can tell because they're even numbers. So I'm going to just do this one more time. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so my denominator is 1. 150 is a little harder, but if I think about 100 divided by 2 is 50, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. That's 75. 75 over 1. So I just got an answer of 75, and I didn't need a calculator, and I didn't really do anything that complicated. I multiplied by 100, and I used my math facts to divide by 8 and by 2. That wasn't so bad. I thought it was going to be harder. So let's go back. What did we just do? We divided each side by 64 hundredths. I did a whole bunch of stuff to get there. I got 75 is equal to B. So it looks like my friend spent $75 at the game. There we are. So at this point, you might be feeling confident about example 4, and if you are, feel free to go ahead and try checkpoints 6 and 7. I'm going to do one more example for those who would like to see one more problem. Use the percent equation to answer the question. 27 is 7.5% of what number? Here's my percent equation. Are we getting good at this? It's getting easier. 7.5 or 7.5% I'm given. Wait, whoops, let's see. 27 is 7.5%. 27 is 7.5% of what number? I don't know B, do I? Look at how this is just a direct translation of what I just said. 27 is 7.5% of what number? All right, let's start solving. I'm going to rewrite this equation so that 7.5% is in its decimal form. There it is. Who's in that? And now it looks like I have to isolate B, I need to divide each side by 75 thousandths. That looks pretty overwhelming, doesn't it? Well, let's see what we can do with that. On this side, we're going to get B. This side's going to require a little more work, so I'm going to move over to the side and see what I can do with that. I've got 27 over 75 thousandths. I hate seeing a decimal on the bottom, so I'm going to see if I can get rid of that by multiplying. This time I need to multiply by 1,000. That will move the decimal point over to the right 3 times, giving me 27,000 over 75. Now, right off the bat, I know that these are both divisible by 3. So I'm going to just simplify that fraction. 27,000 divided by 3, using my math facts, that's 9,000. And 75 divided by 3, that's 25. That's a little bit easier to work with, isn't it? Now, let me think what else I can do with that. I could just do a long division. I could think about how many 25s fit into here. That'd be a lot of 25s, though. Lots of ways to go. I think I will just go 9,000 divided by 25. All right, 25 would fit into 90 3 times, because that's 75. That's going to leave me with 15. 25 is going to go into 150. Let's see, 4 times into here, twice in there, that's 6. 6 times 25 is 150. 6 quarters is $1.50. You know what? I just got a remainder of 0, but I need to fill this in with another 0. It looks like it's 360. That was not very hard, even without the calculator. So I got 360 is equal to B. What does that mean? I better go back to the original question. 27 is 7.5% of 360. That's what that means. All right, you should be ready to at least try those last 2 checkpoints on your note-taking guide, numbers 6 and 7. Good luck.